Hello, and we are here with Santo Domingo-based Andiel Galván. So that's in the Dominican Republic. Thank you for being here. We've been talking for a while, and I've been learning about Andiel's really interesting background. So I have some questions. You're also a fellow walkability advocate. So we've been having a lot of really interesting discussions about your city of residence, Santo Domingo. And I first want to ask about, you were telling me about this experiment you did where one day a week in this very car-centric city, you made a decision to one day a week use public transit and walking to commute. So can you share a little bit about that?
Hi, Anika. Thank you for this opportunity and for what you're doing to promote walkability in the world and in global terms. Yeah, in 2018, I was concerned about the difficult it is to walk in the city of Santo Domingo and the difficult how difficult it was to use public transportation, especially this public transportation non-regulated, which is privatized and which is controlled by transportation unions. So every Friday for during 3 months, I had a car-free day. So I went to work and I went to gatherings with friends and other by walk, by walk, and also using these carros públicos, using these voladoras, which is also the private buses that do public transportation, also the OMSAs, which is the public regulated buses. And it was really, in personal terms, it was really enriching, this experience. I mean, really was like a fun day. I really awaited for this day every week because it was a day where I felt like with freedom. You are free when you don't have this car. You don't have to. I mean, you are by your feet, by your feet, walking, and you also see in my case many. I mean, you are in equal terms with most of the people in the city. You know, and but what I found, what did I find? I found many obstacles in the city. Uh, and I was at that moment like maybe 30, 32 years old, and I was able to jump if I had an obstacle, to walk in the street in a moment if there was not sidewalk, or I don't know, to walk more or in a larger distance if I didn't have a safe pedestrian crossing. But I saw many other people, suffering from these obstacles in sidewalks, for instance, small sidewalks, or trash cans regularly on the sidewalks, also cars parked on sidewalks. And it really gave me like uh, like a direct, sensation of what is to walk in the city of Santo Domingo. And also, I mean, to understand, I mean, or to remember why every young or every people living here needs a car, or the first project or economic project uh, uh, that they established, or they said, is to buy a car. No matter if it's an old car, if it's an unsafe car, they they think they need a car because there's no uh, a public transportation system with dignity. And also there are many obstacles and risks for people who walk. So for me, it was a great experience. And sometimes I try, if I can, I do a free car day. I wish I could do more,
I can see you doing, I can really envision you leading a car-free movement. It's the way you talk about it. Um, it it's very engaging that it wasn't just about experiencing the city in this way, but it was also liberating in a sense of freedom. I mean, I can relate to that. I
Yeah.
can see you really inspiring a lot of local people when you share your experience. What did your friends and family think? How was their response to your car-free day?
Well, at the beginning, they were afraid. Oh, be careful. They're going to rob you. Be careful with your backpack. Be careful with your cell phone. Be careful with you crossing the street. Maybe you may have an accident. Be careful, my son. My mom told me, be
Mhm.
careful with that. But many weeks later, when they start seeing they and other friends, they start saying, hey, that's interesting what you say. It will be very difficult to change what we have, but still it's interest, or it's fun, your videos are fun. Wow, why are you doing that?
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I got some attention from friends. It was not my intention to get like large attention, but really to, yeah, to show
Mhm.
other perspective of the city, or for drivers, people that are depending on cars from years, maybe friends, families, classmates, or friends at work, but they forgot, maybe they were pedestrians in a certain moment, like all day pedestrians, but now they forgot this reality, that is the reality to be pedestrian, to use public transportation for 70% of the people in Santo Domingo. So it's not like a small
Mhm.
reality. No, it's the whole representation. I mean, most of the people here depends on public transportation. So yeah, they understood, and I think there are many people willing to be pedestrian. Anika. But that's the
Mhm.
thing. You have the car, but you cannot go by car everywhere. Sometimes you don't have enough parking, sometimes you don't have the time, sometimes you have, for example, to go to supermarket many blocks from your home, but you take the car, and then you take more time in the traffic, also in parking, also, you know uh, so people wish, and that's part of the feedback I got, and it was surprising for me. More people than I think, hmm, wants, or than I thought, wants to be pedestrian, wants to have the possibility to walk, at least by decision. If I have my car, I take my car if I want. But if I want to walk because I want to work out, you know, to work out because I want to have some fresh air, I would like to have the possibility. And most of the people here in Santo Domingo, they don't have the possibility to choose to
Mhm.
walk because of, all the risks and the obstacles that they may encounter.
Right. The paradox is, as you explained, it's a real car-centric city. I can relate to that. I grew up in car-centric cities. It's a car-centric city. However, most of the people depend on public transport, which is also not accommodating the people's needs. You explained
Yeah.
that it covers 10% of the region, the public
Yeah,
transit. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. So you have around 10% of the city that is deserved by this regulated, good quality public transportation from the state, which is based on subways. There are two subway lines, one north south and one west east, but they cover northeastern of the city, and and then you have a bus, like a bus company, or a bus institution. I mean, like a bus service, a public bus service, but it's really limited, and you don't have enough bus units. So, and what happens? The buses, public or private systems, are not necessarily connected with the subway. So you'd have a system which which lets you like really rely and do tracks, like trajects in the city, uh, based on this good public transportation system. No, so you need to take other transportation solutions which cover 90% of the city, most of the city, and then you don't know where will be the stop. You don't know when this bus or this carro público will arrive, because you don't have a schedule for that. You don't have determined stops. You don't have safe stops. Sometimes you take the bus or the public car, this unregulated one, in the middle of the street, hmm? Or you step out in the middle of the street, because there are no. So, but that's the reality of most of the people. And imagine when it rains, we are in the tropic, we have
Mhm.
a season with a lot of raining. So yeah, I mean, even if most of the people suffer that, the solutions and the investments that are being done in the last years sometimes uh, promote more a car oriented city. So that's part of the issue we have in the moment.
That the politics are continuing to promote car dominance, or is that what?
Yeah, yeah, because there is a relevant urbanist here, Marcos Barinas, which has really uh, interesting analysis and recommendations for public decision makers.
Mhm.
And he has explained many times, when you invest on a larger road, you know, you incorporate another way, you have a two-way avenue, and then you double this avenue for a four-way avenue,
Mhm,
or
mhm.
you create more parkings, more parking lots, more and more parking lots. Well, that's okay, maybe you need them. But when you in the other way, you don't create better sidewalks, you don't invest on good quality public transportation system, you don't create better conditions for people to walk and to leave the car at home. What are you uh, telling the people? Hey, buy a car, or yeah, use a car. I'm investing and creating more conditions for you to use the car. But the city, there will be a moment, and we are kind having these problems. Like this year, we've seen traffic jams we haven't seen in years. This, because there is a point where you don't have space, you don't have the means
Mhm.
to you know to get the city like moving, and what are the solutions? Well, you have to look at the other more sustainable transportation means, or systems, not just the car. So investments, public investments, have to incorporate this need to promote uh, pedestrian conditions and walkability conditions and requirements. And sometimes it is not being taken into account, even by local governments, So yeah, you imagine. So there is a cultural and educational challenge in this in the city.
I like how you put that. It's a cultural and educational challenge. Because as we know, we can often look at the infrastructure and see what's lacking, but if there's no political will to change it, nothing might happen. There needs to be that political will and investment. So I was curious about what you're sensing maybe in upcoming years in terms of political will to change things. I know you're a very passionate advocate too, so I'm going to be excited to see the work you do. Um, but I think it'll be interesting to see what happens maybe with the shift in this area potentially, because all across the planet we're talking about these issues, right? That's the whole reason I bring up the global piece at pedestrian space as well. But there's another element that's really serious that you would think would shift the political will, and you referenced this earlier, was just safety.
Yeah.
So if you could share about through your experiment, you noticed the obstacles, but you were also sharing with me that when you and your wife go out with the stroller and you documented for your social media, also safety issues.
Yeah. A couple of years later, like during the pandemic, 2020, we had this lockdown. So cities were empty. Cities were empty. And Sunday, we walked around our building in our neighborhood, like a 30 minutes walk around our house. And we went with the stroller, with the baby, with another child, and my wife, and even without cars and motorcycles, we had many obstacles. I was impressed about the obstacles in this very wealthy neighborhood, which is not about money. So we didn't have ramps for disabled people, with the wheelchair and strollers. Also, we didn't have these ramps, so you have to take your stroller there, and then you have holes, because you have sometimes this. There are these. There are holes in the sidewalks. You may have different levels of sidewalks. You may have small sidewalks. You may have ramps. But you may have sidewalks transformed into ramps for the use of private buildings, and many other things that this encourage you to go with your stroller and have a walk near home, which is good for health, which is good for children, So yeah. So what's the topic with safety in Dominican Republic? Dominican Republic is one of the top, with Argentina, one of the leaders of death because of fatal vehicle accidents. So this is one of the countries where you have more people dying because of car accidents. The Dominican Republic roads, but this is in the roads, but also in the streets of the city. And within these statistics, you may have cars involved, buses, trucks. You may have also like a 15%, like a 20% of accidents, fatal accidents, which involves pedestrians and bicycles. So pedestrians are not out of this reality. They are in the middle or in the center of these safety issues that we have in the city. So, and I like 2 weeks ago, for instance, here we had in another city in the east of the country, San Pedro de Macorís. I had a video in my social media, and you have, Anika, 3 boys, like 7, 5, and 3-year old, which were walking in a sidewalk in front of a school, of a public school, where there are signs of low speed, and there are also like other obstacles, so cars have to stop and then go slow. And they were walking with their dad, these 3 boys, and they were going out. They just finished practicing baseball, because baseball is the national sport here. Everybody, a lot of people, even if I play soccer, that's my sport. Baseball. And you know what happened? There was an SUV, a black SUV, that just crashed the 3 boys on the sidewalk. That was 2 weeks ago, because the driver was learning how to drive. They were practicing. That was 2 weeks ago, and 2 of the boys, they just died at the moment, immediately. 3 and 5-year-old, and the 7-year-old was really damaged. They went to hospital, and the father also was injured. Do you imagine?
No.
And we as parents, how can we handle that? That was really. And I have a boy, a 3-year-old boy. Sometimes they go to park in the afternoon, sometimes with their mom or with babysitter. And do you imagine how I feel when I'm working and they go to park, but they have to, and it's like 3 walks from home, but there are cars, there are like, there are a couple of streets, and that's the problem. If we cannot have a safe city for children and for the small, we have problems here. And I don't know how do you see this point of view. I've learned about other urbanists that designing a city or planning a city for children, or for the smallest, is a way to design it for everyone.
Yeah.
And I really believe in that.
Yeah. And I think from what I'm understanding, unfortunately, in places where there's a lot of fatalities, sometimes it's an issue with that the consequences are not stiff enough. People aren't being penalized enough. I think there's just no excuse. I'm 100% against parking on sidewalks. I don't even understand why that's legal in some places. cars ending up on the sidewalk and hitting anybody is intolerable. It's truly intolerable. And I'm 1,000% with you. If we cannot have cities, and we currently in many cities, one cannot feel safe letting their child walk alone to a park without worrying that something's going to happen. And it's completely unacceptable. It's a absolute baseline for sustainable urbanism, for a healthy life. So yeah, it's a huge concern, and it's really heart-wrenching. That story is absolutely heart-wrenching. So yeah.
Yeah, although I believe Santo Domingo can become a more walkable city.
Yeah.
We are into this, and we suffer, and we know there are really large obstacles and challenges, but I believe through education, and through education first, and also through law enforcement, that's a first step to move uh, towards a more walkable city. So education and law enforcement, and that's what you said. These cars parking on the sidewalk, they are just not having the consequences, because
Right.
that's illegal. But if they don't feel the consequences,
They're going to keep
so
doing it. Right.
yeah, it is not about an investment on infrastructure, because you say, oh yeah, it's very expensive to build subway lines. Yeah, you may say it's expensive. Of course it is expensive, but there are many measures you can take, which are administrative measures that you
Mm-hmm.
don't need to invest. And one is it law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Law enforcement and education may, in my opinion, may boost and may help uh, to have a more workable city. Then you have public security, of course, public security. When you have this risk of being robbed, okay, that's an important point.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, first is education, law enforcement. Then you have public security. Then you have a public transportation system which is connected, which is good quality. And then, okay, you need infrastructure. But before infrastructure and huge investments, there are uh, many decisions, and there are many initiatives that you can take from the authority, with the neighbors, with the students at school, with the people that use the city, and you can have good results. That's what I think. I don't know how do you see it.
I absolutely agree with you. And I see you truly as a really bright leader on this educational piece, because you are communications, you're a corporate communicator. I really enjoy listening to you talk about these issues. You're very clear, and I really see you as a bright leader. And also your optimism. Of course, it can be a walkable city, and you have the ideas exactly how to do it. And it is also, I like what you said so much about it being a cultural challenge too, because this parking on the sidewalk, to me, I see this as a mobility behavior. It's exactly where it's not just there. It's in many places around the world. Sometimes I put up pictures of cars parked on sidewalks on social media. I say why, and people from all over the world comment. It's a global challenge that I'd personally like to tackle, and I can't do it alone. So I'm really glad to know people like you who see this as a real issue. It's, it's I call it a culture of mobility. It's part of the culture of mobility. Your local culture also includes high public transit use, which obviously can also be improved, like many places in the world. But it also includes this behavior that I agree with you with law enforcement. We can eradicate parking on sidewalks, particularly in your area if it's illegal. Here, for example, where I live, it's legal to park on the sidewalk, which I think is bizarre. Why have a sidewalk if you're going to let people park on it? So there's different mentalities about this, obviously, right? So to me, it's a big global discussion with the need for local change. Speaking of local change, I think it's really exciting. In your neighborhood, you're part of the new neighborhood association.
Mhm.
So you're the public relations secretary. So that you were explaining earlier too about how that also got you connected to issues of walkability.
Yeah. Like in the neighborhood association, we through social media and other channels, we try to educate. We try to publish reports that neighbors they sent us. And yeah, and part of the priorities or of the concerns of the neighborhood of the neighbors of Naco is the district and the name of the neighborhood, are related with noise. First, a term problems of noise, also problems of illegal or irregular constructions and buildings that maybe they privatize the sidewalk. That's one of the main concerns. Or they build obstacles in the sidewalk, for example, trash cans, uh, like small buildings, or for the trash. Also because they don't respect the height regulations or the density regulations. And also we have on discipline. I mean, we have terms concerns related to uh, in discipline in the road. I don't know how I can say that, but people don't respecting the transit rules, so they go in the wrong way. For instance, they go in the wrong way. Do you imagine how uh, difficult, how delicate this is for pedestrians?
Yeah.
When you cross your street and you just look to one side because it's a one-way street, but you may have a motorcycle or a
Mhm.
car in wrong way. This is difficult. And
Mhm.
also you have people parking on the sidewalks. Also you have people parking where you can park. And yeah, and also people parking right in front on the pedestrian crossing, for instance, which is illegal. Or there are ramps for wheelchairs. You may find a few, but you may also find cars blocking the the wheelchair ramps. So every week we have reports regarding these issues in
Mhm.
this 10,000 neighbors this neighborhood. And yeah, we do reporting in social media. We do meetings with authorities, but authorities here have a whole city with similar issues, and sometimes you don't feel they have the means to respond to this
Mhm.
particular situation. So it is up to us as neighbors
Mhm.
to we have a plan. We just finished like a plan for the association for these 2 years, and we have many actions that involve approaching the the restaurants and commercial buildings owners, like to have this approach, to have these commitments with them,
Mhm.
because we cannot rely on authorities.
Mhm.
There is a law enforcement issue, of course, but in parallel of the law enforcement measures that the authority may contribute with, we are developing this other approach, which is in moral terms, trying to have commitments, trying to explain and to get sensible to these people, like, even your customers need to use the sidewalk. When the
Mhm.
cars occupy the sidewalk, your restaurant is less attractive. These kind
Mhm.
of approaches,
Right.
so that you may say, yeah, it's logical, but no, sometimes it's not understood.
Yeah, this is really so great. All the educational notes that you're incorporating into this. It's advocacy at a really local level, and so Santo Domingo is really lucky to have you, I think. Um, it's, so I'm really looking forward to more communication with you. I think there's so much to discuss, and welcoming you to the Global Walkability Correspondence Network. I'll be so happy to be collaborating with you there. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Anika, for this initiative. This global correspondent network for Walkability, for me, really was like, really. So I mean, I follow your Instagram and website, and I saw this pedestrian space and all the content, really good quality content. But this idea of the global network, I think is great, really, because we're gonna to have this opportunity to exchange experiences
Hmm.
with different contexts. I know
Right.
there are cities in US, in Europe, but also in Latin America. So
Mm.
I think this is well conceived, and I really support you. You can count on me. Uh, you can count on me from Santo Domingo and also from other Dominican cities that may have other characteristics. And yeah, I'm really. I mean, you can count on me.
Yes, I'm really happy for that. And what you said, the exchange is really important.
Yeah.
Looking at problems in different contexts. For example, when you speak about the parking on sidewalks, again, well, the first time I saw it, maybe I've seen it before and I didn't notice, but because I'm, really paying attention to things more and more, um, and when I post those things and people comment from all over the world, I'm just floored that it's not specific to one place. It's really everywhere. So I think there's a certain solidarity to be gained when we can all link up and say it's happening in my community too, and share about strategies of how we're approaching it. I love your idea or your action for also approaching restaurants and everything. It's a real collective effort to educate people to educate ourselves together as communities that this isn't a healthy way to treat pedestrian space or to treat the people. It's completely disrespectful for the people that need to use it of all generations. And it can be a much healthier community with these changes. It's going to be really great to communicate with you further. One thing we love to
Well,
do
yeah.
for these videos to close out is our city ratings.
Hmm.
So the city ratings are on a scale of 1 to 10,
Hmm.
1 being the lowest, 10 the highest. And this is, again, just a conversational rating. It's a score. It's meant to inspire conversation and dialogue with other people. Oh, what would you rate it and why? To hear people's experiences behind their scores. So we can start with walkability for Santo Domingo.
Okay, walkability for
Hmm.
Santo Domingo, I may say 3 out of 10.
Hmm.
I may, yeah. Uh, is this just on walkability, or there are other aspects to rate?
So yes,
No. Okay.
yes, I do walkability for the ratings. I consider public transport a very important dimension of walkability. I know you do too, probably, but I do the ratings differently. So for the walkability, I'm really just thinking about the walking experience specifically, and then also
Yeah.
a rating for the public transit system as you see it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So 3 out of 10 for walkability, and I explain why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because well, first, because there is this a conception that to walk is that you walk or you're a pedestrian because you don't have a car, you cannot afford a car. So it makes that pedestrian is less important, or maybe a second class
Hmm.
citizen of the city. And it also create other issues, because the priority in a pedestrian crossing, for instance, it is not given to the pedestrian, even if it is by law like that. And also in general, the larger I mean, the scale is the priority is to the smallest one, to the most vulnerable, maybe the bike, or the pedestrian, and then the cars and the truck. Here is the opposite. So even if you're a pedestrian, even with the obstacles and the physical infrastructure limitations you have as a pedestrian, you don't have the priority to be protected in the city. So you need to get I mean, you need to get your own protection, and to be always aware of cars coming and of risks. So in general, I may say a 3 out of 10 for walkability.
Hmm. And then public transit.
Public transit, okay, I may say, okay, in general in the city, or I may say maybe 4 out of 10, because there is a mixed system. You have a private, non-regulated, which covers almost the whole city, and then a small part of the city is covered by a good quality public transportation system. So yeah, it depends on your trajects, on your commuting.
Mhm.
So you may have a mixed experience,
Mhm.
but still, yeah, 4 out of 10. There's a lot to do,
Mhm.
but there's a baseline.
Right.
Mhm.
And just to close out, how about just a few ideas? What would you like to see in the next, say, 5 years, next few several years for your walkability score to come up?
Okay, I would like to see more educational campaigns from the authorities giving this issue, the walkability, the walkable city aspects, more importance. So the authorities talking about that, the authorities taking it into account in the investments and in the projects. Also, I would like to see streets being enlarged and not roads being enlarged. I don't know if you get it. You understand what I mean? So instead of adding more ways to the streets or avenues, I would like to see how meters or centimeters being added to sidewalks. That will be like, because that will be a good sign. That means that we are looking the problem in another way, and that we are finding other solutions to for the transit and for the mobility need that we may have. You know, uh, yeah, yeah, and I would like to have the possibility to walk with my kids more in the city without car. To go and walk, and that will be a sign as, of a more walkable city in 5 years.
Thank you. That's great. I look forward to communicating with you more on all these issues and hearing
Yeah,
more
sure.
from Santo Domingo and to collaborating with you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks to you, Anika. Thanks to you. And yeah, I think we start. This global network, and I'm sure we're gonna accomplish many things. Maybe not in Santo Domingo, maybe in other cities, but I'm sure these accomplishments will benefit, will contribute to improve Santo Domingo's situation. I'm sure. I'm already motivated and really excited about this possibility. Hmm?
Yeah, I hope so too. Actually, I hope to see changes, and I'm not there, but of course, I hope it benefits Santo Domingo too. And it's gonna, I think, it definitely we need to be patient. But I like the sense of presence you have, for example. And I think these issues are terribly urgent. And I think with the pandemic, we definitely saw how quick cities can act when we need to. Entire cities were shut
Wow.
down, right? And I really believe. With for example, with the presence that you have and the knowledge on these issues, your experience, your obvious commitment. I love the fact that you started car-free days yourself.
Mm.
Yeah, I see you as an absolute local leader. So I'm going to be really excited to see um, how changes develop there over time and to hear about them from you. So thank you.
Mm. Thank you.